video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and with me, as always,
Ben Vanella here. We've had a couple of weeks off doing some roving reporting, but now we're back in the studio and everything is going perfectly as usual. We're joined, of course, by our third co-host,
Mr. Perfect himself, Adam Knox.
Oh, yeah, Adam. Yes, that's it.
What was? And we're back in the room.
That was the Australian hypnosis game show hosted by Daryl Summers.
you're back in the room.
You're back in the room.
Yep.
That's crazy that it's that because, and we're back in the room is something that is stuck in my head.
Yep.
You might even say it lives in there rent free.
Oh, yeah.
That's an original thought that I've come up
lives in
with.
there rent-free thinking it's a chicken.
Exactly.
Calling the show You're Back in the Room, it's like that's the thing that you're saying when they're out of the hypnosis.
Yes.
So it's a show about hypnosis, and the title focuses on the part that is not hypnosis.
I guess it's reassuring.
I guess.
If it was called like you might get stuck in the room.
Yeah.
Or
but they,
out of the room.
No, but they should call it You're a Chicken.
Yeah. You've been hypnotized.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I mean, like, Thank God You're Here is an Australian show, and that is a similar sentiment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of the same thing. You could have called Thank God You're Here. Hey, you're back in the room.
You're back in the room.
But that is at least named after the like instigating phrase.
Yes.
Yeah,
where
yeah,
the hypnosis one would have been like "and you're under" or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's the end. You're
Yeah.
You're titling the show with the end of the act.
Stupid.
It's so dumb. And
You
it's
wouldn't call a porno "I'm coming," would you?
That's a good Thank God You're Here scenario. Like you walk through the door and you've just come out of hypnosis.
Oh, that is good.
Right, so the guest walks in. For people who don't know, Thank God You're Here, Australian show.
Imagine running your show stupidly.
You've got it's everyone else knows what they're improvising except for the guest comedian.
Yes.
Yeah. So they walk in, they get thrown a scenario, and they have to like kind of piece it together.
Yeah.
But so yeah, if you walk through the door and it's like, wow, you've just come out of hypnosis, and boy, you were doing some pretty embarrassing stuff.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not
Damn.
bad.
All right, apply for a writer's job
Yeah.
with the news because that was boring as the news.
Yeah. Whoa.
And we're back in the room.
And to think I was just about to reach into my bag and give you some gifts that we brought you back
Oh
from
no!
Japan, Adam.
I've ruined it yet again
Yeah.
by being a guy in my mid-30s who thinks the news is boring.
By being a sassy little biatch.
Well, we're about to affirm that characteristic because we've got you some toys.
Hey, you were just telling me before we started recording about how you wished you'd have bought yourselves more toys over there
Yeah.
because you have more room in your luggage.
So,
The classic toy destination of the beautiful country of Japan.
Yeah.
so this is I didn't actually even get myself anything from this shop. This has
Wow.
all come from the Capcom store.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. This
Yeah,
is
so
lovely
have a little
of
look
you.
at these on camera. They're
Is this
all-
an asthma puffer? What is this?
Well, we're not sure.
Oh,
I literally don't know what it is.
Yeah.
it says recovery spray. I think this is like a Resident Evil.
It is?
It's the
healing
Resident
spray.
Evil health spray. So
Yes.
there's a whole batch of this kind of stuff in the store that everything else is like labeled like, hey, this is actually like a cologne or whatever.
Yeah.
That one was the only thing that didn't say what it was.
It's
so
cool as well because it says Unitarofa, which I don't know what that is. First aid recovery spray. Unitarofa might be from a game, and I don't recognize
Yeah.
the name. Copyright Capcom. It has no health information on the bottle itself, no description of what it actually is.
I have a feeling.
It may say in Japanese because there is a lot of Japanese on
So
this box.
do I spray it somewhere neutral first or spray it directly into my mouth assuming that it's a flavored...
I mean, yeah, that was our guess. Our guess was that it's like a breath freshener spray.
Yeah.
But
I could spray it like Dumb and Dumber style kind of away from my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Safely. Hold on,
my
let's
my
do
guess
that.
was that it was either
Well,
yeah, you might
nothing
have to-
comes out.
You got
need
to prime it.
You need to give it a few more pumps.
Well, that's
My
not
guess
my
was
style.
either my guess was either
It's 2 pumps and that's it.
You know what? I think it is just a vessel for which
Oh,
you may
put
choose the
in-
ingredient.
Well, that would make sense for why it did.
It
Yeah,
is an
it's
empty
It's
bottle.
an empty bottle.
And we're back in the room.
That's kind of the best result.
Yeah, that makes it... Oh, sick. I'm going to fill this full of booze.
That is good. Yeah, because my guess was going to be either
Little
breath
spritz.
freshener or like the the mist sort of
Oh, yeah.
stuff. The like
Like,
you know,
like the sort of-
revitalizing mist kind of stuff
yeah.
would make sense thematically for what was on that. Is
Bit of
the,
rose hip.
That's so
is the
cool.
price tag still on there? Because I would love to know what this empty bottle cost me.
Yeah, it is. Are you okay with us revealing that, Nox?
Hey, it's nothing to do with me.
It was 880 yen, so it was like $9.
Wow. Thank
Wow.
you. what a
$9 for
scam
the
they're
sticker.
running over there. That's very cool. There
Yeah,
is for
check out
camera.
the YouTube video for a little sneak peek of
a
that.
little Umbrella Corp notebook.
Yeah,
in
yep.
which I can write all of my
Evil plans.
evil
Yep.
schemes.
Yep.
Writing one of the notes that you find in a Resident Evil game where it starts off fine,
Yeah.
but by the end of this book, I'm like, I regret what I've wrought.
Oh, that's a good little
Yeah.
project.
I
Check how many
sacrificed
pages
my
there are
family.
in there, and you just write on every one of them.
Yeah.
And it has to get progressively worse.
the diary.
Yeah, this
The
is
environmental storytelling.
This is very cool. I don't know why I'm opening this one for the camera because you can probably imagine what the paper looks like inside.
I will say a
Unless-
lot of Umbrella Corp merch at the Capcom store. They really do assume that you want to play you want to role play in your life as the most evil corporation of all time.
Yeah.
It's fitted out memo style as well with
That's
like
cool.
a to and from and the date.
Oh, yeah.
That's neat.
So that's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love these. And then there's a little Chainsaw Man, not Chainsaw Man the show, the
Right.
Chainsaw Man from Resident Evil little
He's a little
Badge
standee figurine. He's
Oh,
got a little
sure, yeah,
base
yeah,
there
yeah.
that you kind of clip him onto.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah.
That's so nice. Thank you.
No worries.
It's
Oh.
yeah. I also we did a little trip to. It was in Shibuya, wasn't it? That we went to the Nintendo store, and then there was like a Jump store, like a Shonen Jump store, and a Capcom store, and we both walked through Capcom and were like, "Oh, this is sick. Let's
Very
only
cool.
get stuff for Nox, though."
Yeah. I mean, that's
No, I
the
love
thing.
this.
It's kind of hard to get gifts for someone like yourself, Adam, over there.
Yeah.
Who's similar to us because it's like you could like every store you go into, you're like, oh, Adam would like that.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain point,
Yeah.
you have to go. I'm not going to get him a grab bag of things from across the country.
Yes.
I'm just going to zero in on one specific section of one shop because
Yeah.
otherwise I'll just be picking up stuff every half hour
and then
of this
disallow myself from buying anything there as a show of respect to him.
trip. Yeah.
On the back of this notepad as well, it's got a phone number that you
Ooh.
can call if you have any problems with the notepad, I suppose.
That is-
There's an awful
That's
lot
great.
of like,
Disclaimer text and
disclaimer
stuff.
type material on the back of this notebook.
What are the ingredients of that notebook?
Yeah.
I'm assuming fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Japanese, so a good
Probably
chance
peanuts.
it'll be fish.
Usually peanuts, right?
On the front,
Traces
it
of
says,
nuts.
people's health is protected, full stop. Umbrella with the U is italicized and the two L's are italicized.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the style that Umbrella Corp uses
Yeah, I don't know.
within Universe. We are promised the future, comfortable and real-life safety.
Nice.
That's very cool.
That's a great bit of
We
translation.
got to call this. We got to call this number. I would love to know who's on the other end.
Hello,
Yeah.
I'm here to complain about the English on the front of your notebook.
I think as well, anything you write in there becomes canon in the Resident Evil universe.
Oh, that's
sick.
good.
And
Yeah.
then Ada's walked over to me and she's like, damn, you're pretty cool,
You're a
Adam.
handsome
Wait, I
fellow.
need to know relative to the is the price tag on? I now need to know what everything cost relative to the price of an empty bottle.
Notebook.
This is the same 880 yen.
Okay.
Notebook
standee,
sorry.
660.
Notebook
okay.
what?
660.
660. Okay. So the
That's a steal for the notebook.
Yeah.
an empty small plastic bottle, the most expensive thing that I bought at the shop.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you're in need of,
Real life.
an empty container or some
Re-lifening?
paper, you know where to go.
I think you need to put like some kind of like breath freshener in there, and then just like every ep from now on, you just start off the show with a little spritz,
Oh yeah.
so that
Yeah.
people know when they're listening they're getting some fresh dulcet tones down the microphone.
Yeah, I'll put some content in here.
I think
Nice
what
and
you said
fresh
earlier,
content.
Nox, a bit of bourbon or whiskey, right? To like, lubricate the
Oh
vocal
yeah.
I mean,
cords.
I'd love-
me.
Yeah.
Something actually medical. So if there's like a situation, and hopefully there won't be on the street, where someone's like, "Is anybody a doctor?" You can be like, "Almost."
yeah. Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
then they start screaming because I'm spraying vodka on their
Yeah.
wound.
Yeah.
What's the shit where do you ever like cut yourself really bad when you're a little kid? The like what's
like-
the shit that really really stings? in that like maroon
antiseptic type stuff.
Yeah,
whatever.
that you'd like fall off your bike and graze your knee, and you'd be in a lot of pain, and then your mum comes out with that bottle. You're like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine, because you knew that was like so much gonna sting so much worse than the current pain.
I actually never found it painful.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
I never fell over. So.
Yeah, I fucked it. I actually fucked it.
I fucked it first.
I fucked it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know the antiseptic I fucked. It goes to a different
It actually
hospital.
said I was the best it's ever had.
Oh, well, thanks for that. These are nice little knickknacks. I've been knickknacking over here.
You been
still.
patty whacking?
No, well, I didn't get up to patty whacking. I was trying to patty whack Dark Souls after playing some Bloodborne.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, damn, Dark Souls is a good game. Remember that? And went to maybe do some stuff to like get a platinum on that or whatever. But boy, you got to do a lot of weird shit in that game to get that stuff. So didn't do it. But Dark Souls feels stiffer than I remember as well these days.
I went through that big period of playing. After getting into Elden Ring, I did Bloodborne, which I loved.
Yeah.
And then sort of went backwards. So I did Dark Souls 3. Still held up great, very similar to Bloodborne without the Bloodborne mechanics, but like felt fluid enough. Great level design. And then skipped 2, I think because there was a the HD version of Dark Souls 1, and it was a bit harder to get into.
It's a slower pace thing. I didn't enjoy going back to that as much as Bloodborne, but I've been doing that partly because I get the impression, I never played Dragon's Dogma 1, but 2 comes out on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
And they're of a similar-ish sort of thing. Not really, but a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
and I think they've put the character creator out early so that you can...
They did.
Which I'm not a big character creator fan, but if it's going to be there, I do like the move of just like you know what, if you're someone that obsesses over this, get this out of the way, and then when the game's released, you're straight in there.
Yeah. No, I thought, and I didn't actually get around to installing that or anything, but think a similar thing where it's like going at a grocery shop before you're doing your cooking. And I've loved seeing some of the stuff people have made in that. It is like a really robust character creator where you can... Handsome Squidward, for some reason, is like the thing people make. Him and Shrek are like the Super Mario 1-1 of like making
silly characters.
Default things.
They're like having a Big Mac in another country, just getting the baseline of what they're capable of.
And people have made very competent versions of those. So
I feel like every character creator now is like, we had the Street Fighter 6 one where people were able to make a lot of crazy stuff, and now it feels like they're all trying to really outdo it. Like, if you come out of the gates and you can have like a lot of very memeable characters being created, that's just easy press.
Yes.
Easy free press for the game.
Yeah,
so it is worth making it so that you can make a little fucked up elephant man.
Someone made Kate Middleton in Dragon's Dogma's character creator, so we finally found out where she is.
Gotta say, was off grid for sort of all of that, and coming home and being like, I have no idea what people are fucking on about here.
The internet has made people go absolutely psycho these days. It's a terrifying world in which we live now.
Yeah.
But don't worry. I can heal us.
I knew you'd love it.
Yeah.
I just knew. It's a little replica thing from the game.
Been a secret prop comic, Adam.
No secret. I'm proud to think that objects are funny.
Yeah, no, that's true. Objects and farts are always funny.
Dude, if I could put farts in this bottle...
Mini whoopee cushion, you push it down with the thing.
Fuck off, Carrot Top.
Yeah, you could rig it. You could go down to JCar and rig up a little fucking sound chip thing in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be cool.
That's
just
the
going
ultimate.
into an electronics store with that and being like, now what I want is for when I push this down, it makes a fart noise. Money is no object.
Yeah.
Just tell me what wires and what copper and what circuitry I need to get this going.
Try to get it done, but I don't have the electrical engineering ability, so every time I press it, it goes, happy birthday to you. It's the only one I could find that was easy to put in there.
You figured that out, but then you're in the sound stage with like a catalogue of like thousands upon thousands of different farts, and you drive yourself insane because you can't lock in on the exact perfect one.
You have to get a rotating roster, like natural farts.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Different every time.
Randomized, yeah.
A bank of how many?
How many times am I going to spray it? 7,000? 8,000?
Yeah.
Oh, now it's got Wi-Fi, so it's like tapping into a global database
Yeah.
to play one off the internet at random
You
every
think
time.
$8 was expensive for an empty bottle? Wait until I'm done with this.
Yeah, but then this is like house flipping. Like, we mod it up, then we take it back to the Capcom store and we're like, check out what we've done.
Look.
We want $4 million for it.
Don't have the language to be able to tell them exactly what I've done.
Google Translate working overtime to. It's like this can't be what they're trying to say.
Yeah, saying please leave the store. That's it must be on the fritz.
Just learning enough Duolingo to get to the point where I can say, look, it farts now. Not having any other ability to speak. Can't ask where the train station is.
I kind of think they'd like that over there.
Yeah,
I think if you
I
got the
think
right
that'd-
guy behind the counter, they'd be pretty into it.
It's just about universal. It's the Mr. Bean of comedy, which Mr. Bean is also. If you want a higher definition fart sound in the future to come from your fart-based video games,
Yeah.
you have options towards the end of this year.
Yeah.
One option at
Allegedly.
the very least. It's pretty certain at this point. There's been there have been leaks in the for a while now, but like very concrete ones in the last week or so. Digital Foundry's even gotten to the point where, and they're pretty, you know, they're Eurogamer and stuff. And they're like, it's certain.
They're clear in the schedule.
Yeah.
For their side-by-side comparison video that goes for 8 hours.
A big part of why it's pretty confirmed that the PS5 Pro will be out towards the end of this year, most likely. And the pretty specific specifications of the thing is because they've also put it on their like Sony dev portal thing, a lot of these specs for developers to target.
Right.
Yep.
So that's a big part of why it's like, no, this is happening.
I do love this kind of stuff where like a company, when they're just in control of it, when they're working on it, you know, it's easy to keep it on lock. You know, it's easy to just be like, hey, only the people that work here know about it. This isn't going to get out. But then as soon as you start talking to third parties, then it's like, hey, apparently, like you must just be like, God damn it.
Yeah.
The loose lips over at Ubisoft.
Yeah.
It's so I was reading about it before. I'm not, again, my electrical engineering ability starts and ends with making a bottle fart, but it basically will have a pretty weird realm of benefit in that it'll be able to do some sort of upscaling type thing like DLSS or whatever is like a big part of what they're doing this for. Better resolutions at lower difficulty for the machine sort of thing.
Like 8K.
I've seen people saying they're targeting like being capable of 8K 60 and shit, which no games will actually do.
Yeah.
That's similar to like the PS4 Pro could do 4K stuff, but games still always ran at 1080 type of thing.
I don't know much about this kind of stuff because my engineering knowledge begins and ends with making a little bottle that says "me so horny" every time you push the nozzle on it.
Yeah.
But this like AI upscaling thing that I read about, that sounds like a very interesting prospect as things go forward. And like, I assume it's the ability to make it like actually be able to make things look better without necessarily needing that hardware in there?
That is what DLSS and FSR and those types of things basically are.
Yeah, it's sort of generating, like filling in the gaps, like blowing it up and then being like, well, if there was a pixel there, or if it looked pixelated there, or if there was like, like tearing and shit, it's like, oh, we'll fill in the gaps, we'll smooth it all out.
Games already use this a lot too. It basically means you can render something at a lower resolution and then have it appear at a higher resolution because it has smoothed out the errors. I mean, again, this is probably the equivalent of going like, cows feed their young through beef. Like, not really, but sort of.
I mean, I love this kind of stuff because you don't really hear about this kind of stuff anymore, but I love hearing about like in the early generations of games, the way they would like trick the hardware into doing stuff that they wanted it to do that it wasn't capable of. Like someone was telling me recently, I don't know if I've said this on the show, but in the original Mario Brothers, they'd run out of sprites, so the coins that you pick up, they're not sprites, they're part of the background. And when you walk over that part of the background, it's just triggering a thing to like change that part of the background. So it's not a sprite that you're walking into. It's like a thing, you know, those like workarounds where they were like, well, we want this on the screen. Yeah. We've hit the limit. These things where you trick the hardware, and you just assume now that things are so developed and high tech that there's no need to do that stuff. But hearing that still happens, it's like you're always going to want to strive for something more than what the current hardware can achieve. Yeah. Anything where a little machine is being tricked into doing something it doesn't want to do.
Oh, no.
Like getting Chappie to suck you off.
It's all
making a bottle fart.
It's
all that is what I'm talking about.
Tricks still. Yeah. Like, for sure. Like every piece of computering is all...
Computing?
I think you could say it a little more complicatedly than that.
Yeah.
It's all fake.
But there's not a real Pokemon in the box.
No.
But
well, I was going to say, it's like a reverse Game Freak where They're like, no, we should render everything
Game normie.
uniquely. Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
I encountered, I think, the DLSS stuff for the first time in Cyberpunk, where that was a game that was like, we're reaching for more than most people's hardware is capable of. Which it ended up being really the case.
it's great.
But
It works really well when it's implemented well, and it means you can run things smoother, even though they look better.
Yeah.
Because we were talking in Japan a lot about like we're at this point where most people are kind of off AI because it's being used for creative things that sort of end up being, not very good. Obvious that they've been made with AI, put good creative people out of work, and we were like, well, what are the applications of it that a human being either couldn't or wouldn't want to do that is like that is beneficial? And something like this is a great example of that. Like if it's able to smooth over those gaps, then it's like, well, that's not taking work away from anyone if it's in a hardware thing and it's making it all look a bit better.
It's enhancing people's existing work.
Yeah.
The second thing that sort of fits into that is improving its capability with ray tracing, which again can lighten the load on having to make custom lighting things in there. If you can have just procedural lighting, which is what ray tracing is, like that, it will be better. And so it won't mean that. So a lot of it doesn't necessarily mean games will run better. Yeah. And it will get into that point again, like with the PS4 Pro, where some will get patched and some won't and whatever. All of that sort of stuff's unclear. But with the ray tracing, the example they said was that, well, some games on the PS5 can do a ray trace mode that is just reflections or just the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
It might be able to do both. And things like that. I don't think it's a weird upgrade, and Sony have made a ton of hardware that they then people question why they've bothered to make it, which this could fall into again.
Well, I think the other thing was that I think the CPU's better, but not heaps better.
It's the same.
Right.
The CPU is the same, but again, look at the Digital Foundry stuff if you want to know the particulars of this. We're not the place for that, but there will be the RAM is slightly better and is they've improved the amount and made it faster, but in practice it's just to enable these better graphical features, and the CPU might actually be somewhat limited by how much extra work it's having to do with the GPU or something.
Right.
Again, for particulars, go to someone who knows the specifics of this shit. But
go to our friends over at DTF.
Yes.
Down to Foundry.
Overall, it's a different sort of thing to the PS4 Pro, where like it's like
the mid-gen upgrade feels just like way less essential at this point.
Yeah. With so many fewer exclusives and fewer games that are actually testing like the limits of the current PS5. It's like,
but
we're at a point where we're getting so into like actual like photorealism anyway that those leaps are less noticeable. And also, I guess this feels kind of almost more like this would just be the thing that is just on the shelf instead of the PS5. So like if you're buying one new, if you don't have one, you would get this, because I kind of feel like for this to be coming out at the end of the year when you've also said we don't have any new games coming out for the like if they had
we're thinking about the PS6.
Right, if they had timed this alongside Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and it's like, hey, guess what? If it's going to look a little bit better on this, that might have, for me, someone who already owns a PlayStation 5, that might have been the thing that would inspire me to
do
upgrade.
The trade-in.
But by the time it's out, I'll have, what am I going to be playing on this thing that, if you're going
that you
to
haven't
the back,
already played.
Yeah, if you're going to the back catalog on it.
This is an alternative to a PC of equivalent power.
Yeah.
But it will still probably be cheaper than that.
Yeah.
That's what they're sort of doing.
But I mean,
here,
this feels more placed for the person who hasn't gone in yet to get in on the PlayStation 5 ecosystem than it does for like
It'll
it
be
being
more,
a
though.
necessary like upgrade for someone who already has a PS5.
Those new versions of the regular PS5 will still exist, and this will be more expensive than those.
Yeah.
And will use the same detachable disk drive thing probably.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So it's
and like 1 terabyte of storage was, I think, the speculation. On the machine.
The same as the base one.
Yeah.
It'll be like there will be games that are patched to run slightly better on it, and they will look slightly better, and the frame, the ray tracing mode will run better on the new one and whatever. But
I wonder if they've got something to like go alongside this, because didn't the PS4 Pro launch sort of alongside Spider-Man? That was one that was like, so you sort of do need like something, even if it's not going to be the most like, you know, out of control, amazing looking thing. Like,
I'd imagine their pitch would just be, this is the most powerful console now.
Yeah.
So if you're playing things in like multi-platform games, hey, this is the best place to do it.
This is the one,
The thing they said with like no new games was like no new like sequels to existing franchises that are like big. Not even, maybe did they say first party? I can't remember.
That's all it is.
But
no big first party franchise Sony games.
So like there
until
could be
next May.
there could be a big third party game where the devs are, you know, kind of aligned with Sony.
And there'll be a new franchise from an existing thing. Like Santa Monica's working on that sci-fi game that Cory Barlog's doing.
Right.
Something like that will probably pop up. And again, it's like, this is such a... I mean, the PS Portal is like selling out everywhere. That some of their hardware is hit. But in similar themed news, they've paused production of the PSVR 2 because the production line was jamming up with how many extra fucking headsets they had that people were not buying. So
the new Virtual Boy.
It's very annoying.
They capped it at 2 million was the thing I read.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was the headline. I was like, they've made 2 million and they're not making any more until they sell all of those.
Well, and that's the thing that we were talking about when they said they were working on the PC compatibility with it. Is that's to try and shift some of them out more than likely.
Yeah.
So they love to make their hardware 10 different headphones, some of them in your ears, a new controller. Let's keep going. Screen on a controller.
Yep.
There's someone working real hard in the Sony hardware department.
Well, I mean, they always were hardware, right? Like, that is their basis. And, like, Microsoft is like, hey, let's try some new software things that we can force people to subscribe to. It makes sense that there are more people in Sony being like, well, we have factories that make this shit.
Yeah.
Let's give it a crack. But if it doesn't work, we'll just stop.
Again,
just stop that one.
It's hard to see what the actual real world, like, here's the difference between this game on a base PS5 and the Pro version until they start showing that stuff. But all of the specification things and what people are saying about the difference in capability between the two just isn't about stuff that excites me very much. Personally. But I'm still interested to see the comparisons and stuff they inevitably put in.
Yeah, because Ben and I have finally gone in on a piece of software for the Sony PlayStation 5.
Yes.
And I mean, for me, this is the thing that kind of, without this game being around, makes it hard to get excited for a hardware upgrade, is that, this is the first party PlayStation 5 game in a while.
This isn't a first party.
It's
a PS5 exclusive.
Time exclusive. This is the first thing in a while that's hit for me. Like the Final Fantasy 16 and God of War 2. Just weren't like. There's just been a big stretch where I've engaged with them for a bit, but they just haven't really grabbed me. And this is the one.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You are back in the room and you've been able to play it. It's such a good fucking game. What do you reckon?
I'm early on. I'm still in the Nibelheim.
Sure.
I believe it's pronounced Nibelheim.
Yeah, it's Nibel.
I disagree.
I pronounced it Nibelheim when I played the game.
That's the only one it definitely never was.
Yeah, I know.
It's Erig, not Aerith or Aerith.
I know this is probably just like where the story is paced, but I really do love the setup of like, you know, it's been a few years since the first chapter came out, and just like kicking this one off on like flashback, really throwing you back into like, here's a bit of like Cloud's kind of like, it doesn't just like pick up and throw you straight back in. I kind of think that's like such a nice, elegant way of doing it. You're running up a mountain and getting your little credits coming up over that. I just really love it's such a, like a classy way of kicking off this thing that is a bit, you sort of go into it and it's like, I haven't picked that other one up since I finished it 4 years ago. Am I going to be sort of a bit on the back foot? But it just does this, I love the pacing of it so far, even though I'm not into like caught up on the story where it is in like current day of the timeline of the first game. But like I'm just loving that as a bit of a setup of like young Cloud. Well, it's 5 years before.
Something like that.
Yeah.
There's a gap of 5 years somewhere in that flashback. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I think it is
because
5
they're
years.
like telling the story to each other in the hotel room a week or two after the events of the original game. Like they've just walked to this other town. It's not long after.
And sort of great way of like tutorializing you again by like, you know, taking you back to a time when Cloud's younger is like a cool way of doing that.
Yep.
And yeah, there's a great bit where you're like, he's walking around with Sephiroth and then Barrett interrupts and he's like, I mean, the way you're telling this story, this Sephiroth sounds like a great guy.
Yeah.
What's the issue? And he's like, let me fucking finish.
Well, I don't know, man. The way you're describing how the two of you looked at each other, it's pretty hot.
It is funny that there's a bit where he's telling the story and he's like, the bit that you're watching is like he's bagging out on Tifa. And then you hear Tifa present day be like, wait, you said that about me? And it's like, why'd you tell her that bit?
I like that in the original too. She's like, wait, you went in my room?
Yeah.
You played my fucking piano?
So then you'll never guess. I just sat around talking shit about you for fucking ages.
It is a lucky happenstance that the original game is structured in the exact same way. You finish the Midgar bit, and then you hit up a little town, and you go, so wait a minute, what's everyone's backstory?
Because I would have assumed that was... I would have assumed if I didn't know anything that was like a thing that they put in to like flesh it all out more, to sort of, pad out the game a little bit. But I mean, for the time, that's a crazy thing to do in a game narratively.
Well, and they've spaced where these remakes cover from into in that this one also is a natural sort of break point where it ends in the original story too. It's you're a little further along.
Yes, I think I'm like 8 or 9 hours in so far. Again, like I've played the original, so I know the story, and I think the adaptation is fantastic. It's more, I think, in a high level way, closer to the original than remake was. But again, I'm relatively early on. I think I'm maybe 25% of the way through if you just barrel through the story.
I think probably not even that, honestly, from where you're at.
And I guess that's true because I have been doing a lot of side stuff as well. So
it adds in some stuff later on as well, I guess. And even like right early on, no spoilers still, but like
there are some
one of the first things you do is like, well, Zach's in this now and that sort of stuff. Like
I found actually, and again, this is probably knowing the original game, some of the story beats in the first like 3 hours really confusing. Characters getting from places to other places without even telling you how, and a lot of things seemingly being skated right over.
It's playing a little bit with stuff that you would know if you played the original too, and then messing with you on that level slightly too, very early on.
Which I was just like, okay, whatever. Like with the previous, with remake, it'll get explained by the end of the game in a way that is like not necessarily like telling you the secrets of it, but giving you context for why it's structured that way.
And it certainly is doing its own thing on top of being a remake of the original more and more as this one goes on.
Which I think was similar with remake, right? It certainly ended up in a
all of those whispers
place.
and shit.
Nothing.
They weren't in the first one. And they were such a huge part with no explanation in remake 1. So that sort of thing continues of like, no, there's something else going on, and so there's like a second level of mystery or whatever on top of, if this is your first time experiencing the main story of Final Fantasy VII, there are mysteries in that too. That it's doing this, so it's like 2 episodes of Columbo at once.
But it's like, it's beautiful.
It looks incredible.
It looks amazing. The scale of the areas which you talked about not last week, the week before, Nox. Like the size of the open world sections is perfect, I think, because like they could get bloated and it could just be a lot of running around doing fetch quests, but I feel like it's just at the right level where it doesn't get tedious, or it hasn't for me at least at this point. And yeah, those areas look great, and the whole time in the background there is a fucking giant thing from the game, from the original game, that is an iconic piece of imagery where you're like, oh yeah, that's the fucking Junon cannon. You know, and it looks incredible, and the closer you get, the more you're like, oh, they really figured out how to do this, because in the original it was so pixelated, and like the cutscenes even were just very smooth. You didn't see a lot of detail, but like, yeah, getting to Junon and being like, oh yeah, that's how like the people live in this city, because it always looked so weird. But,
in the original, I remember not really understanding that with Midgar even like that there were plates above the bottom bit, even though they kind of say it, like you just don't get a visual of it in the same way.
Yeah, you know, you're rarely, or I think, on the top and getting out and walking around.
You can't really.
Which you did in the remake. Yeah, you like go to Jesse's mum's house or something.
Yeah,
and
you can't convey scale in an isometric viewpoint.
Yeah,
you know, whereas like looking up at it.
Yeah,
not in the same way that this game fucking does. So like. Incredible. It just looks awesome.
I know what you mean about some of the controls and movement, where even just in that early bit, you're in the town and it's very like, it's got that very like realistic sense of movement physics that I think Yakuza kind of does too. Like when you're walking around the street, like you will bump into people, and then there's an animation of them kind of like moving backwards, which kind of
You've
feel
got a bit of inertia.
You're kicking every table and chair all over the shop.
Yes.
But then when you go running up the mountain, Tifa is just like, it's like she's a Dodgem car. Like she's just, and then there'll be things where and again, this isn't an issue, but it is funny to have that level of like perfection when you're just walking around a street. But then a thing where like, if you go to push a button or grab something, and Cloud is like a few inches away from it, he just will like slide across the ground towards it, which is like, well, what do you want? Like, it's a waste of time to have him animate step over. But it is so funny when there's this like level of realism and perfection in a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then you get into this area where all of a sudden, like even when you're holding down the run button, your movement turns into like basically Mario, where the laws of like actual human physics don't apply. Like you're just zipping around.
And the like natural terrain, you can kind of like just go like
exactly.
a little weird on.
Yeah. Or like you can hammer the circle button, which is meant to be getting you to jump over stuff, and then sometimes you'll be able to do a big jump onto a little ledge. Sometimes that ledge is 3 centimeters too high.
But it works because it is this like part realism, and then that stuff that feels very video gamey when you kind of notice that it's working like that. It's not really an issue because that feeds into the whole tone of it, where it is very realistic looking, and it is kind of a very self-serious plot, but then it is also very goofy and very anime, and the delivery is very over the top. So having that, like something like that happening in A Last of Us would be really jarring, but here it's just like, yeah, this is a video game. Even though this looks realistic, at no point is it trying to pretend that it's not a video game.
Kate Sith is hanging out with you for a lot of the game. Like, it's hard to be like, oh, that doesn't look real.
Yeah.
You know, like...
And it's like, because you are still in the very self-serious bit. Like, there isn't a lot of that goofy stuff yet, but very quickly you're getting chocobos and like little baby ones that are like, follow me to this bench.
The tone is great.
Yeah.
Of like the humor, especially later on, is like some of the best that games have had for some time. Just in like...
Wait, were you frequently laughing out loud?
I genuinely was. It had me frequently laughing out loud.
Oh, yes.
I don't want to say any of the particular stuff because I don't want to spoil anything, but there are moments that are just so fun.
Yeah.
Like so like campy.
Yeah.
And like joyful.
Someone's talking shit about someone and they're behind them, aren't they?
No, they're in the room.
And it's just like having a soldier be like, okay, this is a good example. A dance battle can be one of the least funny things that you can see in something.
Yes.
Or it can be quite a lot of fun if it's set up right.
Yeah, the first one has a fun...
The first one has the great dance battle. Yeah.
All that sort of stuff just worked really well for me.
Yeah. There's been a few, like little background lines, or like you're running around at one point gathering some soldiers together and you're like often interrupting them doing something else.
Yeah.
And it's like, the captain's here. Like, there's a lot of that stuff.
Like 8 different times, people were like, what the fuck do you want? Oh, no, the captain.
Yeah.
And it worked on me every time.
Yeah, it was great.
People are just like cumming their pants over the fact that Sephiroth is in town. Like, same as the first one, I had to turn off it, like, automatically subtitles the game itself, but it also does that log of everything that's being said in the background is like appearing on the side of the screen. And I had to turn it off because there just is, and this is like a good thing about the game, there just is so much of it. It like the towns feel so alive because like every crowd that you walk past is saying something interesting, something believable, but it just is like when that is all appearing on the side as text, it's like, this is like covering half the screen.
Yeah, that's a
like
good
it works
point.
as audio, like it makes the town feel so lived in, but it's like, I don't need to stop and read every single. I like just kind of. If I don't catch all of it, that's kind of the point.
Because you do notice a bit of repetition in it, which it's like, oh well, the size of this game, that's absolutely fine, and I don't mind hearing the same line again in the background. But yeah, when it's like a list of repeated phrases, I think I agree.
And the music is just, it's truly incredible. Even when every time you get into a bit that starts to feel like, oh, okay, this is just like sort of generic-y action music kind of score, then like a weird little synth line will come in. Or like every time you start to think like, this is the one where they kind of like, took a bit of an afternoon off, then it does something that is like so unexpected and interesting.
The
and
way
creative.
it like riffs on different versions of the original's music and builds on them is really well done to add to stuff that like is very well known and very classic, and to then like legitimately improve on it in a lot of ways. The way the music transitions from like the just sort of world music to then you're in a fight, but it kind of turns into the fight music of the same open world music, and then it transitions back. Yeah, it's all done so well.
It's got that thing where like it all feels so organic that I kind of feel the same way about it so far as I did about Tears of the Kingdom. It's truly hard to imagine a team of people having worked on this. Like it feels like an alien artifact that just kind of like appeared perfectly formed.
When you get to like the sort of bigger moments in the game too, it really knows how to, pull it out for a minute and then like, oh shit, here's this thing, and then bring in the like, oh fuck, it's that theme, and like all of those moments are done like maybe a little melodramatically or whatever, but in a super fun way that fits the tone of the overall game. So I'm like all for it.
And the combat, of course, great.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
I'm loving it. I feel like the what is it called? The folio stuff that wasn't in Remake, was it?
Folio.
Yeah, so you're like combat folio, where it's basically your branching upgrade.
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that stuff's new. Yeah, they've got like that new machine at your like rest stops. Yeah, that's like the weird kind of purple. Yeah, what is that called? Is it the folio
it's
or
folio,
like some book word?
But you can upgrade it at a bookshop as well. Yeah, not just there, like the purple jukebox. But and that's maybe a bit much. Like I don't need all of that upgrade stuff, and I feel like it takes away from the materia. Because there are literally some abilities you get through that are like cast an ice spell without using any mana points. Yeah, where it's like, oh, okay, but that takes away from the mechanic of the combats
and having to like ration yourself.
You don't really have to think about it too much as well, because you just kind of put points in or I was just putting points into what became available.
Oh, I'm totally doing that. Yeah, but it's just conceptually, it's like, oh, I don't know that this was necessary.
Well, I agree, like, because it's not even really adding another layer of strategy or whatever to it. You're just kind of going through it. The most interesting thing that comes out of there is the like group abilities.
Yes,
that it's worth
synergy.
It took me too long to figure out that there are two different types of the synergy attacks. One that you choose through the menu, and one that you only do by like holding R1 or whatever it is, and then pushing the face button. So
you're like combo.
Yeah,
are they new?
Yeah.
I feel like they're new. Yeah.
They're new, and you get a bunch of different variants on them depending on who's in your party.
Yeah, because like if you hold L1 with like say Barrett and press square, you activate like a little iron skin defense thing. But like I'm just not clear of like there's so many options in
there's
combat.
A lot of different
it is assuming it's sort of tutorializing. Yeah, it's sort of tutorializing you, but it is also assuming that you've obviously that you've played the first one, but also that you've played the first one like quite recently.
Yeah,
like it doesn't do like a full reset of like it eventually teaches you about the maybe using abilities or maybe the limit break thing, but it's pretty late on, and I kind of in the battles I'd been doing, I was like, oh, that's right, I can do these, and so by the time it told me, I was like, no, I mean, I've figured that out. Some of this other stuff I'd like a bit more clarity on.
Yeah.
It's worth messing around with a bit, maybe doing some of those like that fucking Chadley guy's
what a chat he is though.
his challenges.
Yeah.
It bothers me how this isn't a spoiler. He creates that second AI girl.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I made her, and then spends the rest of the game being pissed off at her. Like, whoa, what's wrong with you? Why'd you... So...
Chadley.
The combat is... There's, like, quite a lot going on that's worth diving into. Because then you can also, like, add little modifiers to, like, your weapons, too, which I ended up just setting all of them to auto.
Yes, same. Which I think there was some weapon upgrades in Remake, but you could also do the same thing. You'd just be like...
I probably did.
Auto upgrade to balanced, auto upgrade to, like, defense for your defensive people.
There's something about having a deep menu screen that's just got a bit down the bottom that's like, push this to just do it automatically. And in my head, I'm like, so you're admitting that this is pretty inessential. You're admitting that the game could just do this for me, and there's like very just like when it's like optimized choices, it's like, well, why don't I just do that?
I'm excited for you guys to finish it. Maybe we can do a little sealed section about like there's plenty to talk about with all of the story stuff that happens later on. But
I'm pumped. I'm pumped to It's such a shame though that like I haven't finished Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I feel like there's another couple of games that I've started already this year that I haven't finished. But this is going to be the one that
this is definitely like Persona 3 I'm really enjoying. Yakuza obviously want to finish as well. They're very easy to take a pause and come back to because they just are turn-based. There's no like... This is like, as we're talking about with the controls and the combat, this is really one where like once you're in, you do need to just like lock in and not take any significant breaks because you come back and you're like... It's really like take 6 months off and come back and like bump it down to easy while you just work out what the fuck's going on again.
There's a fair few things that you got to have in front of mind with like how different characters even play. Like it took me a while to recall like, oh right, like after when Barrett starts reloading, if you push triangle or whatever the overcharge button is,
that's right.
He'll like charge that a bit as he reloads. So there's like a timing thing, and like the way all the Aerith's like little circles that she summons work and all of that type of stuff. There's a lot going on, and it's real good.
I think, the point I'm at now, you've been forced to use certain characters, or like your party's been split. So if you think you're like, oh, I've got my 3 main characters here that are my party, you'll get split up, and then you'll have to use the other 2, and you'll get refreshed on their combat.
It'll do that a bit throughout the game too. It's really cool, like all the detail in it of like, every character has their own little animation for sitting on the benches to rest. All of that stuff. It's such
even
a
just little things like you're always, well, I assume, or at least in the early bit, you're always moving Cloud through the overworld, like when you're just walking around. But then it puts you in a point where Sephiroth is your party leader. So when you go into combat, you're controlling him to begin with. And so going from moving Cloud around to battle starting and then it whipping around and showing you, putting you in control of Sephiroth, and then you finish the battle and you whip back to Cloud. That should, that just all really, you would think that would be very like confusing, and, the camera would, like it's not really jarring at all. Like it just works. Like it's so smooth.
I think you can rearrange your party to have anyone be your sort of lead person, but I also didn't even try that.
Can you make a different leader?
In combat, I think maybe when you're walking around, it has to be Cloud.
I'm not. That's what I mean. Yeah, in combat you definitely can, but I think you can, because you kind of go through at least a point throughout the story where a lot of the people are the person you're walking around as. So I think you can make, but I didn't try it because it's Cloud's world. We're just living in it.
Cloud Strife.
Good game.
Good ass game.
Really good game.
Speaking of sort of open world type games.
Oh yeah.
There was a demo that came out yesterday for Sandland.
Yep.
I didn't like it at all, but I think it's because the demo is just weirdly thought out, at least in part. It plonks you into just this open world section with zero context and instruction that only goes as far as these are the controls.
Yeah. No story context, no
quest to do, no like current like objective marker anywhere on the map or anything.
It's
you
not
just
like
sort
you
of
come in, not like you see a cutscene that's out of context. You literally
It just dumps you in.
it just dumps you. It pumps you and dumps you.
Yeah. It just tells you to hook someone up to a lie detector.
What?
Sanderlands.
Kyle Sanderlands.
Oh, God.
I see.
One of Toriyama's
10-year-old reference plus
one of Toriyama's worst characters, I have to say. I don't know what he was smoking that day.
Completely unrealistic.
I mean, R.I.P. and all, but honestly, man.
Wait, Kyle Sanderlands is dead? Woohoo!
that gold microphone is very anime villain. To be
It
fair.
really is. Yeah. He might be the most anime person in Australia. Not in terms of into it, but just like as a character
As a
type.
character, yeah. He's Don Corneo.
Yeah, you fucking think we're so different, you and I? We're not so different, you and I. It's just like this kind of blank feeling open world that...
It feels like a tech demo more than a demo.
It felt a lot to me like if you were like at an E3 and someone sort of just brought you in and went, this is just a slice
but they've
of game.
given you but they've given you a
Maybe
bit of
someone was meant
spiel
to talk to you.
beforehand to I didn't play this yet, but I've kind of had this feeling about the game since we first started seeing it, that art style looks great. Obviously, it's the great man, but I just kind of had this feeling like it'll just kind of be. It kind of looked like a lot of those Dragon Ball games where they should be good and they look great, but there was that one that was what's it called? Asymmetrical multiplayer one. Which cool concept, great characters, but apparently was just like no good.
So
it sort of seemed a bit like that to me.
I went off and you have some little vehicles in Pokeballs basically that you can summon.
In capsules.
Drove around for a bit looking for things in the environment that seemed like they were points of interest, which some of them were, but they were just like a little camp that had some chests that had items that I wasn't really sure what they were for, and like a radio tower that I didn't have the items to activate, and it was like, this radio tower will give you some things on the map to look at, but I don't have the stuff to boot it up, so all right. Kind of fighting some enemies out there. There's some dinosaurs and some guys and some people in suits. A couple of sort of boss ones that brought up a meter. Like a big crocodile and a big scorpion and like a guy in a suit.
Yeah, like an alpha dinosaur and like a mech guy, I think.
And then you fight them with this not great feeling combat where when you're in your vehicles, they have a couple of guns or whatever that you can aim and shoot that are pretty, just point and pull the trigger and the health bars will start to move down. There's not much that feels very good about it.
Yeah, there's like a big... I was using like the sort of... what do you call it?
There's a tank,
like
and
artillery gun
and
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think each of them has like a strong attack and a machine gun of the machines.
They sort of change. Like the motorbike has like a shotgun and a machine gun.
Yeah.
The mech suit thing has a big punch and a machine gun.
Right.
And there's a tank that has tank shells and a machine gun.
But it's kind of... It felt very old. It felt like an older game. And again, probably a game that I would just play the demo of, where it's like, you kind of drive around, you shoot the dinosaurs and you shoot this. But then... And it's like a big, bare, empty open world.
Yeah.
It's a desert.
It's a big desert.
And I don't think the actual sort of environment looked at all good. The characters look nice with their like cell shading and stuff.
Yeah.
But the actual sort of desert environment just looks quite... not barren in a deserty way, barren in a dull way.
In a game that's not finished way.
It doesn't match the art style of the characters either to me. Like it looks...
No, it is similar to like a Dragon Ball Z Kakarot or something, where it's like a similar art style is applied to the world, but like they're not going to curate every last
super
little...
consistent. Yeah. This is so brutal for this to like... come out when it is in relation to his passing away, and it to like not be very good, and reviewers having to go like, not very good.
The thing is, I could imagine in the actual game, I think that I'm open to the idea that this is just a poorly constructed demo. possibly, because then the other form that when you're the little demon boy,
Beelzebub,
you're punching and you've got a second punch.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The story of the manga it's great. It's a great story. It's a cool world. So maybe that'll carry a lot of it. I don't know if it's like a straight adaptation of that, or if it's like a continuation, or
I think it's an adaptation because, like you mentioned, like the King of the Demons and stuff,
right.
and the water, and like there was a bit like you can go into some ruins, and so you got to get off your vehicle, and like, but even that, it's like okay, so you go into like a big stone corridor, and there's like a scorpion, and you punch him, and then you go left, and there's some like iron ore on the wall that you punch, and then you go right, and there's another scorpion, and like there was no direction, and there was nothing propelling me anywhere.
Which
really.
Again is a big demo part. Like there literally isn't the quest that you would have at this point in the game, you'd assume. But then also in those little bits of combat, it just didn't feel very fun. It was very point and shoot, and then I didn't feel like I had enough ability to sort of dodge and stuff to make it feel interesting. But then also those story bits that are there as you're going around, there's 3 of you, Beelzebub, someone called the Thief, and another guy. The dialogue they were having with each other I didn't like, and their voice acting was really bad and separated from each other. They didn't sound like they were talking to each other. They sounded like they recorded them completely separately.
It sounds
with
like
very
more
different
early access
direction
than
between
demo.
them.
Like it's like a year away from being out, and it's like, okay, I can see what they're building here.
If this was a year out and they were like, here's a little taste, yeah, maybe, but even then it's like, oh, I don't know that this tastes good.
Work. Yeah.
I still think that it could be better than the demo makes it sort of seem, because it just felt like getting thrown in the deep end, and it was like a bit annoying.
Right.
But the deep end was quite shallow.
Yeah.
But you also don't love the combat or the voice acting.
The voice acting was the biggest thing, where that being a little annoying and getting like repeated lines pretty often and all that sort of stuff. I hate that thing of when someone's like there's one bit of dialogue where they're saying, well, the King of Demons was the strongest in your village. And then the second one is like, so who would have been the second strongest in your village, is how you would say it. And it's like, I want to know, who was the second strongest in your village? Like he was bringing up the concept for the first time.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it just very disconnected and just not that
poorly
poorly
phrased.
You can tell that it's recorded out of order.
Yeah.
When's that out? It's out
April,
end of April sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe what other people's thoughts are about the demo.
I had a look because I was so disappointed, and some people have just watched footage of it and have been like, oh, that looks cool. And I think that because I played it on the PlayStation.
Yeah. I did as well.
Some people played it on Steam or on PC, and like they could like turn up ray tracing, and like a lot of the screenshots look like very different to how it looked for us, I think, with like beautiful sunsets and lens flare and detail to the environment that just wasn't in that demo. It was very flat. And so some people, I think, maybe playing it on PC had a better impression. But
I have heard a lot of the same stuff though from people who've played the demo of like, what the fuck am I doing?
It's a bit
Why
weird.
is it not like you should? Yeah, you can't assume that I know what I'm doing because it's a demo. I don't.
And honestly, it's even just one screen away from them explaining, like, hey, we're not going to give you any quests. You'll learn more about them and that, like, whatever.
This is just a little taste of what it feels like to drive around.
Feels
so just
odd.
like do that.
Yeah. I do think like the very first screen is like, this is a combat demo where you can try out this, and this. But it just, like, that's not enough because it's not a normal demo.
No, and it, like... It's if the game has a better foot, it's not put it forward with this. This isn't, so whatever. But I'm still open-minded about the full thing. I hope that the demo is not representative of the full game, because obviously it is sort of a weird thing that is demo specific.
Well, I played a game while I was away with a cool art style that was also a lot of fun to play.
All right.
That's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. It's called Euphoria, UFOURIA.
Okay.
Euphoria.
Letter U, number 4 written out.
UFOURIA.
Yeah, if an alien can't stop shitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. UFOURIA.
Yeah.
UFOURIA.
Does it have
but then there's another U. Yeah. Fuck, that's a weird
Does it
one.
have anything to do with
No.
UFOs or just 4?
No, this is like high school kids taking drugs, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Getting their baps out.
With the boredom in your voice. And you went, yeah.
Well, it's only because I was holding myself back from doing it.
Why hold yourself back, man? Get out there, live life.
Yeah.
Euphoria 2 the saga.
Euphoria 2 the saga. So Euphoria was a game on the NES by Sunsoft. Sunsoft went through a big stretch of like really going for it with all their little mascot guys, and they made a few games with this little crew of these 4 pals. A lot of them were puzzle games. A lot of them never came out in the West. And this is a continuation of that. It's a puzzle platformer where you are switching between 4 little characters, and it's got a really cool, like updated, obviously it's like a pixel art game back in the day. It's got like a really cool, like almost, like the Yoshi's game, like a really like crafty kind of aesthetic to it.
Is this, like the newish game? What is this on? What
this is on Switch and Steam, and then I would assume PlayStation and Xbox as well. I assume it's out on every. In fact, I know it's out on Xbox at least. So, so it's a it's a continuation of that series, and it is. We were talking about the Mario versus Donkey Kong game recently, and how the look of that was just so like generic, updated, modern. This is kind of the thing that I sort of wish they would do more with that style of thing. Like if you're updating something rather than just go for the generic, like, oh, here it is all rendered, like giving it some sort of like interesting, crafty, vibey kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, getting some like an illustrator or something to come in and be like, all right, here's like a slight twist on it.
It's kind of, Yoshi's Island-ish, very pastel-y, goofy looking little character designs. And you're just you're walking around. It's sort of like you have these gated areas that you can't get into until you find another one of your little buddies that, one of them can swim and just all that kind of stuff. And then it's sort of rogue-likey in the sense that each little, like it's side-scrolling, but then each time you go through the gate into this area, it'll be sort of slightly different, but like a rotating, like one of maybe 5 different sort of layouts. Because you are backtracking a lot, so it's just kind of this nice thing where you're, just because you're having to go back through this area, it's not going to look exactly the same. It'll be changed up sort of ever so slightly. And you're having to get coins to unlock items out of a vending. Like you'll find one of your little friends and he's like, I'm not going anywhere until you get me a fucking drink from the vending machine. And then it's like, guess what? The drink costs $3,000. So you're like, so you're going for a little walk and getting your little coins and finding your little hidden areas and stuff. It's really fun. It's really charming. It's got great goofy music. It's got just a weird sort of like, 90s Japanese mascot character design that is so up my alley. Yeah,
there's like a little duck guy, kind of looks like Sanrio-esque.
Little duck guy, a little kind of person dressed up as a cat, a little ghost. And then I think the other one is maybe an alien. I forget. They're all really kooky looking.
Yeah.
It's a really fun, like, switch your brain off, relaxing little lie in bed before going to sleep platformer vibe. Would be great for kids, maybe as like an early game, or maybe not necessarily first game, but like, a lot of
cozy vibes.
Definite
cozy
a lot of
vibes.
fun dialogue with the writing being like very silly and very charming and endearing. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it's like a really nice approach to like bringing that kind of era of stuff rather than just like straight up remaking it or porting it or whatever. It's like cool to dip back into this thing. Like I recognize these characters. I'm sure I saw the box art back in the day somewhere, maybe in a video store or something. But I'm really, really enjoying it. I haven't really seen it get much.
I've never heard of it.
No, neither.
Yeah, I can't. The trailer showed up for me somewhere, and then it came out. I think I saw it on a shelf while we were in Japan, and I was like, "Oh,
wait, did we go to Japan?"
You haven't mentioned it.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, it must be out here early." And then, "Oh no, it's just out." Just kind of. It's obviously like not a hasn't had like a big release, but I think it's definitely worth checking out. Like, watch some videos, watch the trailer. If you like the tone and feel of that, I think you'll be into the game. you'll know immediately from looking at it whether it's up your alley.
Yeah,
It's very Kirby. It's
very
like
yes.
It's a very just like it's not looking to punish you. It's not very taxing.
Yeah,
but it is a lot of fun, and you just get like swept up in the world, and it's a nice little bit of escapism.
Yeah. The reason I made a face that made you stop talking is because you said it's not taxing, it's not punishment, and then my brain went, "Yeah, taxes are punishment."
Yeah.
But I had to not say that because it's not what I believe.
Well, the doing of them is.
Yeah,
having to do
the
your
filing
taxes,
of them is punishing.
Sure,
hurts,
yeah.
but it's
contributing
important.
to your society is it's important.
I want roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I contributed to my society. Well, that would be the case if I lived on Mars,
Right.
because I played a game that was set on Mars where you contribute to society in a way.
Sure. So as the most recent Playdate owner of the three of us,
Yes.
This is like the first real something you've gotten out of it from how you've talked about it, I would wager to say.
Yeah, I played a couple of the first season games, or the first wave of games that get released. I spoke about it on the show. I was like, having come to it so late, I was kind of annoyed that it wasn't just all there for me to play because everyone had already played everything. But yeah, I dipped in on those early ones that are like kind of just a display of the mechanics and how to use, using the crank in an interesting way.
Yeah, there's like 12 of them overall, I think.
Yeah.
There was like 2 a week over 6 weeks.
Yep.
Something like that. And of course, they're a mixed bag. There's a couple of great little puzzlers in there.
Yeah.
There's some that you have one little run of and you're like, okay, I don't need to.
Yeah.
And then a fair number of games on their like official Playdate store that they've since released.
So you could sideload stuff on it very easily from day one, and then they've now added a store that has a lot of that stuff on it, so you can get it like natively. It just gives you a QR code to scan. You link your card, and then you can just like scroll on there and get them. And they're also doing a very good job of like you get on there and they're spotlighting certain ones.
Yes.
And so this game that you're talking about was like, I think they announced this, or they talked about this when they first announced the whole console. They were like, hey, we got the great man working on something for us.
Yes. So this is Lucas Pope, who created Papers, Please, which was a massive indie hit and a very, an artful game and a thoughtful game, and it had something to say. He then created Return of the Obra Dinn, which was like one of the great deductive reasoning games of the past few years, or like 5-6 years now, I guess. Fantastic game, really intelligently made,
and made before there was anything out there about the Playdate, but is very much in the same
old PC style.
Is in this sort of like
couldn't run on the Playdate, but visually, stylistically. But
of course, this was up his alley because it's it's that very like
and Papers, Please as well was like 2D, did a lot with that limitation, but so this new game is called Mars After Midnight. It was like a purchasable game. It was like $6 or something, I think, through their store. Like you say, Tommy, you just log into your account on a browser and give it a purchase. Or I think just link your card and you can just buy it on the Playdate, which is very handy.
Yep.
It is similar to Papers, Please. It is. So the setup is that you're on Mars. There's an Earth colony and then there's an off-worlders colony. You're in the off-worlders colony. You're a 3-eyed alien, and the setup, which is like really good, it's like a nice cinematic, for a 2D black and white thing. It's very well shot, well edited, well cut together.
Cool.
There's like some kind of shop during the day, some like storage place or whatever, and then midnight hits, and the shutters go down, and they come back up again, and it's like a community center. And so you run the community center. And the first thing that you do, which I've only done like the first little session, it's anger management for cyclopses. And so you're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I can only let cyclopses in. And so like your first little screen of the game is like a window shutter that you can like open with the crank and close with the crank. And so you like see a knock on the door and you open the crank, and there's like an alien with 3 eyes. And so you're like, nope. And so you close the crank. And this obviously, all this mechanic stuff is being like explained in text and shit.
Yeah.
Or you open it and there's a cyclops. And so you hold down A and you let them in. And then they come in and they eat some pie. Okay. And then they have a drink. And they go into like the room to wait for the session to start. And then you've got to and this is similar to Papers, Please. Now it's like time management and finicky sort of stuff of like, okay, so before the next person comes, you've got to clean up the table with the pie on it. So you've got to like use your tentacles left and right to like lift up the plates, move the pie over, sweep the stuff underneath using the crank, put the stuff back down. There's a diagram on the wall of like the plates go here, the pie goes here, the cake, server goes here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're doing all of this, and someone's going to knock on the door while you're doing that. But you kind of need to do that because you want them to eat some pie because then they have a drink and they pay you for the drink. So you're building up some money from getting all this done.
But the pie is free.
Yeah, I think the pie's free.
I know what I'm doing when I'm there. What would I like to wash it down with? I've got water at home. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I'll just create extra saliva and then drink that.
I'm not thirsty. I've got this spray.
So you're kind of doing that. It's like not too hard, but you are balancing it with then answering the door and checking to see if they've got one eye.
Do they have to be like angry as well? If it's anger management,
no,
or it's just that's why
it's not that specific. Right. Yeah, and so that is sort of the first thing you're doing. You're like letting people in or turning them away. If someone comes in, you're cleaning up after them. You're trying to get as many people to like buy some stuff on the way through. Because then, once you get, I think, 6 people in that are, like, correct, then, there's a little cutscene. Your little robot friend, like, kind of goes in and, like, does the session with them. And then, on the way out, you sort of, like, see them sort of... it sort of tallies up the amount of money that you make. So you're like, bing, 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 bing. Okay, like, I've made, like, $20 or whatever. And then you get to sort of choose what's next. And there's a bit more going on of like, all right, next you can choose what kind of session, and you can see on a map how many people will attend that session. And your, I think, overall goal is to cure like 72 Martians of their whatever, their issue. So you're like, all right, the next one's like flinching flea blorps, and the way that you do this is that you need to buy a horn. Because then when you're doing the opening the window thing, you're going to do a horn at people, and if they flinch, then you let them in.
Right. But a flea blorp can have as many eyes as it wants.
I believe, yes, exactly,
but if it's a steady flea blorp, then like, brother, you're just here for the pie.
Yeah, I'm shutting that window down again.
Okay.
And so for that mission and before you select it, it like tells you like, for this you will have to buy a horn. So you have to have earned enough money from your previous one to like, get that horn. And I got that horn. But you also choose, I think, for all the successive missions, like what kind of food you're selling on the table or you have on the table, what kind of drink that you are having that you're selling, and it's like it will give you like a dollar amount. So again, you're like, choosing this, seeing how much money you can make. But I assume, and I haven't done the second mission yet, like maybe cleaning up this different, more expensive food will take longer and that kind of thing. Not everyone will like that kind of drink. But that's the basic sort of flow of the game at this point. You're opening, you're letting people in, you're cleaning up, and you're hoping they get their flinching cured or whatever. Yeah. And going sort of area by area around the Mars colony, and I really enjoyed it. It is kind of small, like it's there's a lot going on for how small the screen is.
Right.
But I feel like by the end of that first sort of mission, I'd got into the swing of it. Everything was coming second nature. All the cranking and the thing, I feel like it really made sense, and it was sort of physically, I'd sort of got it down pat.
And this is the cool thing about all these like Playdate games too, is that like they are all kind of perfectly designed for just an afternoon. Like this is like $6, I think. Yeah. So, if all you get out of it is your 1-2 afternoon sessions, that's fine.
Am I right in saying as well that you can play Playdate games just on a computer?
Yeah.
With their like Playdate emulator that they have themselves, so you can buy this and play it without a Playdate. Is that right?
I don't know if you can.
That's the bit.
I think you can. Maybe you.
I don't know. Maybe you need a Playdate to enable that thing.
Yeah, I'm not. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because then, like I think. If you connect a controller, you can it'll be like, okay, so the crank is the analog stick and stuff like that.
You can definitely do that. I just don't know if you need a Playdate for that or not.
Yeah, because I know lots of people who are keen on this game specifically who couldn't get a play date.
No,
so
I mean they're still quite.
They've caught up now, I believe.
They have.
They are like you order one and you get it like now.
Okay.
Like they've fulfilled all the pre-orders, so like they're
Release
cool.
the dock.
Yeah.
Release that goddamn little
That
I'd
little
check
dock.
every now and again to see if that dock's because I'd love to have that thing sitting on a desk.
Yeah.
Looks good.
So the other that's great game. I think it's a perfect playdate game and a great indie game and like just the best use of this handheld possible.
Cool.
Yep.
Like such a obviously intelligent creator and keen for a proper game, quote unquote, a proper game from him. But
from him, yeah. Because on the Playdate, like Bird Story, is it called?
Yeah, a little RPG.
That was probably my favorite out of those. But
Yep. That had a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
And I think like intro included, probably playing the first mission was like 25 minutes.
Okay.
Tops.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a fair few of them. Like you say, sit down for like a solid afternoon and you probably can finish this.
No backlight in it, so once the sun's down,
yeah,
put the Playdate back on the
had to
charger.
chuck a lamp
That's
on.
good. No, Pilgrim style.
But so this is the first time I'd really gone in since I got it and charged it up to 100%, unplugged it, and was like, okay, just make a cuppa, come back, sit down, play some Playdate. And the battery was like 20%.
What?
And so I looked this up, and a lot of people have had this, where it charges really, really slowly, or the display of the battery level is incorrect. So it's like it didn't charge to 100%, and then you unplugged it and it showed you it was charged to 20, even though you left it charging overnight.
Yeah, right.
Like, or it's saying that it is at 100 and then you unplug it and it's saying 20 but it's actually at 100.
There's a few things like that with the hardware of the Playdate where like the first one I got, the crank was fucked.
Yeah. That's right.
And, like
might be worth hitting them up because as I say,
they
now that
were
they're
good with
caught
that
up.
fucked crank as well. Like it was back before they were caught up and immediately they were like, hey, we'll send you another one. We'd love for you to send that one back though.
Yeah, I mean all their videos are like they're a small team and they're very like forward facing and like pretty transparent about stuff. Like I imagine if you hit them up they'll
I emailed them last night, but it's probably a time difference. So
I'm looking at your phone with this email too. I don't think the photo of your penis is going to help much.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it would like make them feel, dominant over me.
I thought it was 100% and then the girl I was with said it's only 20.
No, but so we'll see.
They've been good with hardware support stuff.
Yeah.
And I do think that when I looked this up and other people had said it had happened, they had quick responses and were like, yeah, we'll just replace it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's, like there were a couple of issues in the early run of the production, but whatever.
It's cool to have this out because, I'm keen to see what they do next if they kind of go for another couple of coups of like getting a kind of well-known indie person or whether they do like another series. Now that everyone's kind of got theirs and if they do that series again, kind of everyone will be on the same page that's got one and getting them all at the same time would be cool.
That would be cool to have another batch, but if the choice was that or they get 2 or 3 people who are, like well-known indie creators, I'm happy to wait, for another experience like this where it was like, oh, this is a great game. This is so well thought out and suits the
and
the
of
hardware.
any handheld or like device or console, even if you're not playing it, it's the one that like just looks really good sitting on a shelf.
Yes.
It's a really vibey piece of
It's a cool little
equipment.
gizmo. That's why, that stereo dock that's meant to be a speaker and all of that. I would love to be able to.
I want to have it sitting on the desk.
That.
That's it. Yeah, like if I can leave it in there and hopefully it's charging.
Because it was going to play music and it was going to have a little speaker in it and have a little curated playlist of stuff they were working on.
I assume there's not, but no like word on if this is remaining an exclusive to the Playdate or if there's any plan to sort of put a version of it out anywhere else.
I didn't see I just got reminded of this from like the the email they sent out, the little promo one, but I have to imagine it's an exclusive.
You'd think so.
And it's like I think it's simplistic enough that it probably would need like to be not redone, but like that's a fair bit of effort to convert to like a Steam game or whatever.
Cool.
Cool. Well, I think that's going to do us for this week.
Oh, I have one more game.
No.
Can you not fucking hear?
I have one more game. It was a recommendation from friend of the show, Ruby Innes.
Oh, yeah.
This is a game that came out start of last year called Space for the Unbound.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this game blew my socks off, and I can't believe that I'd never heard of it.
A beneficial sockless game.
That's right. I'm going around barefoot.
The dogs are out on A Space for the Unbound. Yeah, I've heard this name, and I don't know what it is. I definitely have seen people mention it or whatever.
I feel like it must have come up in like indie game sort of stuff. But yeah, it is weirdly, it's an Indonesian game. So it's
I know what this is. It's set in the 90s.
I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like explicit, but this game, it is an indie game. It is... So the start of it is like...
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Indonesian indie game.
I see why you were making a point of that. Now I get it. Pretty fun. Euphoria. High schoolers taking drugs.
It starts off and it's like a younger girl and an older... Well, like a primary school girl and a high school guy. And they're friends and they're writing this story together. And it's about this princess, and this princess dies, and her last journey is to like go to the afterlife with a little cat friend. And it's this is all presented, it's 2D, sort of like those early PC games like Cosmo's Cosmic Adventure. Like everyone's kind of like bopping around a little bit and sort of SNESy, sort of like the second or third Secret of Monkey Island, Curse of Monkey Island sort of style.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an adventure game. It's like a point and click. You get stuff, you use it to interact with stuff. But you're sort of like, you've decided to help each other write this story. But then it introduces very quickly like this magic book that the guy finds, and you like use it on the girl, and it goes into her subconscious, and you like interact with some stuff in there to break her writer's block. Mm-hmm. But then it's also used a little bit later to sort of like interact with someone to like help them work through some repressed trauma.
It's like
sort
Psychonauts.
Yeah, Psychonauts.
Like Persona 5.
Little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But like obviously just like one little mechanic, self-contained. You just like go into it, walk to the end, and like talk to someone, and it like, clears through it. So it's more about experiencing the concept rather than like heavy gameplay stuff. Anyway, you're doing this stuff for a little bit. You're walking around town, and then you split up. You get back together. Oh no, the girl's fallen in the river, and then you try to save her, and then you drown, or you seem to like go under, and then it's like boom, you've woken up and you're at a school desk. And your girlfriend, who is the same age as you, is like, wake up, you sleepyhead, what are you doing? And then you're kind of in this different bit of the game where it's kind of presented in the same visual style, but now you're like walking around and your girlfriend's like, let's make a bucket list. Let's help a cat. And you're sort of doing these other things, but the whole time you're like, what happened to the previous thing? And the previous thing was introduced... So like the actual very start of the game is like, here's the princess, and the princess dies, and here's the cat, and then it's like, oh, that was a story they're writing.
Right.
This one then goes like, that was a dream you were having, and so that's where I'm up to, this sort of like third unraveling.
Right.
But like, I'm in. It's
Cool.
all well written. It's like, 2D, like like old adventure game style. But like the animation's really fluid. Like it takes advantage of being a modern game. It's like made in Fmod or something like that, where it's pixely, but it's like, very fluid. The animations are really cool. Like that second wave of those adventure games on PC. The setting is interesting. It's in Indonesia. A lot of cultural stuff is like brought to the fore.
Oh yeah.
Like I think the developers were clearly like, we're proud of this. We want to make this front and center. The sort of actual mechanics of the adventure game stuff, the puzzle solving, is really simple and really easy to get your head around, without it being like too complex. It's not Monkey Island style of like, how the fuck am I meant to do this? It's like, it's pretty reasonable, pretty cozy games vibe again. But I'm hooked. I'm interested. I did the tiniest bit of Googling from because from what I'd heard from Ruby, like, don't like spoil yourself. Like, there are levels to this, but yeah, people love it. There's also like a big sort of like psychological warning at the start of like deals with some trauma, deals with some issues like this. So. And it hasn't touched on that stuff yet. So I'm, really curious to see where it goes.
Cool.
And it's just really enjoyable. And it's literally like I'm playing it on PC. It's like you go left, right, or you go up, down to like enter a door. And it's like Z for yes, X for no. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Is this on Game Pass? Am I right in that? I feel like it might be.
Oh, it may be. It's definitely on Switch, which may be the better place to play it if you... like playing the Switch.
Does sound like a good handheld game.
Yeah. Let's see. A Space for the Unbound. It's currently 40% off on Steam, which is why I got it there.
Mm-hmm.
It is on Switch, PlayStation, Windows, Xbox. Is it on Game Pass?
It won't say on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah. But I highly recommend it.
Cool.
Regardless.
Cool.
Like I said, it's cheap now on PC if you're a PC player, and it is not telling me if it's on Game Pass.
You could take a guess and you got a 50% chance
I
of
can
being
see
right.
Ben sending an email to Bill Gates with a photo of his dick. Again, I don't think this is going to
help. It's not going to help.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Like I
Cool.
said, the sort of like uniqueness of the setting is, I think, adding a lot. But that aside, it's just well animated. The characters are well drawn and well crafted, and
Cool.
I'm hooked.
I might try and get this when I get home, and then I can come back next week with an official ruling of whether or not you can get it on Game Pass.
It may well be. I have a feeling it is. I feel like I looked at it.
Yeah, right.
But I also have plenty of feelings about heaps of stuff, and I'm not to believe all of them.
All right.
Yeah.
I
Well-
like that next week you will weigh in on if it's on Game Pass, not me.
Yeah. Well, you've got it already. You don't have
Yeah.
a horse in the race. You're not going looking for it on
You
Game
don't think
Pass.
I'm going to do my due diligence
Well,
after the fact?
Long after the fact.
And after attempting to do it and being unable to establish.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
If you yourself want to Google Space for the Unbound Game Pass, I'm sure that will be possible.
Yeah.
Okay, we will be back next week. That Princess Peach game is out on Friday.
I'm hearing bad things.
I played the demo and I don't really know how I feel about it, but I'm leaning towards not great.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to play Dragon's Dogma. Are either of you interested in Rise of the Ronin? Those are the big three that are coming out on Friday.
Not more than playing more Final Fantasy Rebirth, I have to say. But
it came out after the demo came out of that Princess Peach game that it was developed by Goodfeel, who made the Yoshi games, and they've done a Kirby game, I think, the Canvas Curse one. And they also made a game that never came out outside of Japan that I bought while I was there for the Switch. It's a sort of a spiritual successor to the Mystical Ninja games. It's like a 3D action-adventure beat-em-uppy kind of thing. Never came out here, but I picked up a copy of that, and it's meant to be really good. And it's also meant to be pretty easy to get around the language barrier because it's just very action focused.
Right.
So I'm excited to fire that up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's going to be a big week of video games.
About
Yet
time.
Well, we'll see you next week. Head to our website, filthycasuals.com.au. You can find everything that we have going on there. We've got the Patreon. Get on there, support the show.
yeah.
Very much appreciated by the three of us, and you get a bonus show every week where this week me and Ben will be recapping Universal Studios Osaka.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, we always talk about movies and TV
Yeah.
shows and all sorts of other stuff on there.
That's
Same
right.
vibe as this, but just talking about different stuff.
Good time.
Get on the YouTube channel. We got all our videos on there, hundreds and hundreds of them.
So many videos.
Let's plays, one-offs, all
Live
sorts
show
of stuff.
coming
Live
up.
shows
Live
coming
show
up.
coming up.
3 of them. 7th, 14th, and 21st. You'd have heard a thing at the start of the episode about it, but here's
Yeah.
a thing at the end too.
Filthy
Please come along
Casuals.
if you're here.
Yeah, filthycasuals.com.au for tickets or the link in the description.
Yep.
It's going to be fun.
Or
Yeah.
the Comedy Festival website as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
You can get them
Yeah,
all
yeah.
over the place.
You could Google it, try booking. Hey,
Yeah. Google Space for the Unbound Game Pass, and then after that, Filthy Casuals live shows April 2024.
yes.
Check all that stuff out, guys. We'd love to see you there. We'll see you next time. And until then, as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals.
A lot of talking. Let me just freshen my breath.
Fantastic.